Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. If you haven't heard yet, AT&T has announced that calls and texts from pretty much every single person who has AT&T has, of course, leaked. This is done by design. You've been programmed for this. They've been programming you with all sorts of films about data breaches. They've been programming you with all sorts of films about order out of chaos in regards to technology. We've seen Leave the World Behind being the most recent, and ever since that movie was rolled out, we've seen thing after thing after thing. We've seen Facebook offline, Instagram shut down, AT&T data breaches, bank account security breaches. This is all being done deliberately. I'm going to play for you this clip from CNN, which is nothing more than propaganda, but listen to how they talk about this data breach as if it's something that you need to accept. They talk about who could possibly be behind it, who the mastermind of this is, and then even at the end of it give you a little, well, we've apprehended the person responsible, because of course there's no motive ever needed for these people, because the person responsible is your government. They're responsible for it because a large data breach and a large grid shutdown for a long period of time will force people into conforming into the digital ID and the other means that they will gain control over you with, such as threatening you with things like data breaches and personal information being leaked unless you comply to a digital ID and you comply to the future of the New World Order, which is full on willingness to give up all of your rights to the government. Look at this propaganda from CNN about an AT&T data breach.
And we do have breaking news this morning, a massive data breach affecting almost every customer of AT&T. This is the definition of massive. The company is now saying call and text message records for tens of millions of people may have been exposed in what they are calling an illegal download. CNN's Matt Egan is gathering much more on this. We're hearing some more from the company. This is crazy.
Yeah, Kate, this is another alarming data breach, and it's one that impacts millions and millions of Americans. So just this morning, AT&T disclosed that back in April, it learned of an illegal download of data. The company says they immediately launched an investigation, and that investigation has determined that the incident exposed the call and text message records of, quote, nearly all of its cellular customers and the customers of other wireless networks that use its network. This is between May 1st of 2022 and the end of October 2022. Now, landline customers who interacted with those cell numbers also impacted here. Now, it's really important to note that AT&T says that at this point, it does not believe that the data is publicly available. But of course, that could change.
There's a heavy lean on the at this point.
At this point. Look, this impacts a lot of people. At the end of 2022, AT&T listed about 110 million wireless subscribers just for that company alone. Again, that doesn't include the landline customers and other cell phone customers. AT&T, they're promising to notify current and former customers who were impacted and provide them support. The company says in a statement, quote, "We sincerely regret this incident occurred and remain committed to protecting the information in our care." Another thing here that's interesting here, Kate, is the timing. Remember, I said AT&T actually learned about this back in April, but they're only disclosing this now. The company explained that back in May and again in June, the Justice Department determined that a delay in disclosing this was warranted. We don't know exactly why that is. We're going to reach out to the Justice Department and find out for more information there. But we do know that AT&T says it's cooperating with law enforcement, and the company understands that at least one person believed to be involved in this incident has been apprehended.
Has been apprehended?
Has been apprehended. At least one person.
Oh, that's almost seems like a whole new wrinkle that we've got to learn about, because normally that sounds like could be in the United States, maybe even.
Could be. We don't know the location yet.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot more to learn.
Now, again, what's scary about all of this stuff is that we've all allowed technology to have some type of control over our lives. That's what they've done by design. They've given it to us for a cheap cost. They've made us rely on the internet for information, and they've made us rely on the internet for banking and other things. And think about how many things you've shared via text message. Think about how many things you've said on a phone or typed onto the internet. They've been waiting for this, for people to be so dependent on the technology so that they can use the technology against you that you've trusted in without ever knowing who's behind it. Think about how many people don't even think for 1 second when they type something on the internet or they text a friend that nobody could access this. The only times you ever hear about accessing someone's deleted messages or deleted texts and calls and all that stuff are on crime shows where they get subpoenas and they could access somebody's IP address, and then people go, well, that'll never happen to me because I'm not going to commit a crime like that. But they've been preparing you for this. And all the data they always talk about how key data is, you're the data they're always talking about. And I'm going to show you a clip from Westworld that I've used in the past about order out of chaos and how a deliberate government data breach where they share not just all of your personal information with everyone, but also how they use this algorithm in the future to dictate who you are and what you do, and how people will be reliant on technology to control and empower their lives. This is the horror show that was revealed to us during the show Westworld, which is probably one of the most filled shows with predictive programming that I've ever seen. The series is filled with all of the stuff that has started to come true in today's world with artificial intelligence. But this is what it looks like when, of course, the government decides to deliberately leak data as well as deliberately tell you what the future looks like for people like me and you.
It was planned years in advance. We brought order from chaos. There were people, outliers, agitators who you couldn't predict or control.
What now?
We're going to open their cages. The system's written their life story. They should get to read it.
That's reckless. You have no idea what they'll do in response. It could lead to suicides, murder.
Prepare to send all of them their inside profiles. Past, present, future.
You've all been riding the train. You're going to show them the rails.
Do it.
Knows this kind of thing about all of this?
Not just what it knows. It's what it decides. For you. For everyone. What are you doing? What up here?
And of course, that's what hell on earth looks like. And we're looking at a data breach from AT&T. And the reason I'm comparing it to that scene from Westworld isn't to tell you that that's what just occurred, but that's what they're preparing everyone for. Because all of our information, which is, stored up in a cloud and these other things that they tell us are trustworthy, but we don't know the person behind the curtain. The government's behind the curtain. And the government is going to use all of the data that they've gained against you, or on you, I should say, against you in the future. Everybody is probably guilty of something, whether you've taken a phone and taken a photograph of yourself that was strictly for yourself or your spouse. All of this stuff that we just look at technology and say it's safe, it's secure, it's ours, unless, of course, you lost your phone and you didn't have a password on it, you had pictures or something of yourself that could compromise you on it, then you would say, oh my goodness, my phone is lost. I lost my phone. Most people, when they lose their phone, they're more concerned with, oh my gosh, I don't have my phone. How am I going to function the rest of my day? But what they then start to think about is, oh my goodness, what if somebody could get into my phone? Most people have passwords on their phone, but just imagine you lost your phone with no passcode. No passcode. Now you're probably sitting there going, well, I'm not hiding anything. But every single thing on there, on your device, is a part of you because it's your consciousness that's being uploaded, your thoughts, your messages, what you're saying is all locked in and logged in to your technology. So if you lost your phone without a passcode, you would be concerned. Even if you weren't trying to hide something, you might have said something to somebody else as a joke that somebody might take serious, right? In today's world, with how censored and how concerned people are with words and speech, you might have said something that could be deemed as a threat to somebody else. So you would be concerned. But you should be concerned every single day when you're using any type of technology that the government is listening, because that was the whole point of what happened on that 11th day of September. Yes, sacrifices mattered, but the Patriot Act, the government's ability to now have access to all of our information legally. And stop thinking about yourself in the sense of you're not hiding anything. Because that's the mindset most people have with the technology. Well, I didn't commit a crime. I didn't hurt somebody, so whatever if they get all my information and all my data. But remember, something that is not considered a crime today will likely be considered a crime tomorrow. And in that clip from Westworld, when they talk about outliers, people like me and you are the ones that they consider outliers, threats to their system, threats from not complying to their demands. So back to AT&T's data breach. This narrative is out there because something is going to eventually happen. I've shown you all the clips in the past from the FBI to the World Economic Forum talking about the next threat for humanity before artificial intelligence is a mass cyber attack. They never tell you who, and they never give you a motive as to why. They just are preparing you for it so that when it happens, you're not in shell shock that it's occurred, and the government's going to come in and tell you that it's one of the boogeymen that they've planted seeds in your mind for it to be. Russia, China, maybe even MAGA. But the reality is it's your own government. And they could create something just like you saw in Westworld with something that you just saw from AT&T in order to force you into compliance, in order to use these types of things against you so that you do as they say. And a massive data breach is not out of the realm of possibility in the near future. Every single one of these stories that's out there is for conditioning purposes. They're not telling you this AT&T story so you run and switch carriers, so that you switch from AT&T to Verizon. They're telling you this so that everybody out in the world who has a phone now starts thinking about their potential data being breached. And when the government comes out and tells you that Russia or so-and-so or your bank account suddenly is at zero, because that's part of the plan here, you will believe it. And you will believe what the government says, and then the government will come in and tell you, well, your bank account's at zero, but we're here to help. Instead of you realizing that it's your own government who's doing it, because all of big tech is run and controlled from big government, period. So this data breach is another predictive programming story that's out there that we've heard month after month after month about identity theft, data stealing, and potentially the future where your data is shared. Much like that scene in Westworld, where your data is shared among your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your mother, your father, your neighbor, everyone. And this big hive mind of the internet is unleashed on people. And for people to then comply for safety measures, for no more fear of hacking, etc. in the future, they will comply by having a digital ID, and everything will be safe and tucked away underneath their skin. But it starts with stories like that. And for people out there that think it's a stretch, you could think of 1,000 movies that you've been programmed with, if you sit back and think about it, where the theme of that film has to do with a hack and a data breach. And the future looks exactly like you saw on Westworld. Because what I didn't show you in that clip is what comes after it, which is order out of chaos. Mass chaos on the streets, where everybody's information is being shared. It's not about information being shared, it's about privacy being removed. And privacy will be removed. Because remember, too, in global communism, there is no private property. Even your own thoughts are no longer private. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always, and your families.